Hi, I'm Kiki.
And I'm Kemi.
And you're listening to
Your Advisors Will See You Now, a podcast that will help you to figure out all of your options for life after high school.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Your Advisors Will See You Now with Kiki and Kemi. This is an exciting episode because we have a special guest. Woo-hoo. And I'm going to kick it off to Kemi. Oh, well, no, I'll introduce quickly. So we're still in our series about alternatives to college, to a four-year college. And today's topic is going to be about the military and everything, or a lot of things that go into the military. So I'm going to kick it off to Kemi, who's going to kick it off to our special guest.
Yeah, so our special guest came far and wide. No, I'm just kidding. Our special guest is Warren, my husband.
He's upstairs in her house.
He's literally... Yeah, I'm downstairs. Warren is literally upstairs trying to test out his mic. But Warren, welcome to our show. Also a little FYI, he's also our editor. So
yeah, shout out to you, Warren.
So shout out to you, Warren. Thank you for being our editor, and thank you for being our first guest on the show. So with that, can you just tell us like a story. Walk us through what made you decide to apply to join the military, what were your thoughts, and what that process looked like. And then we'll just join in and we'll ask you some questions too.
Well, thank you for having me on. Hopefully I sound great. I'll definitely have to edit my voice if I don't like it.
No problem.
But
this is going to be the best audio show we've ever had.
So the reason why I joined the Army, which, five branches, Air Force, Army, Marines, and Coast Guard. But I joined the Army because I didn't want to pay for college. It was something that I wanted to always do since a kid. And since the military had some great opportunities after you did your enlistment, after the 3 years, that helped pay for college, it just seemed like a no-brainer because I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do right out of high school. So I was like, let me just join the Army, and then kind of figure myself out in that 3 year span, and then have my college paid for with a bunch of life experience that can help me potentially get a job as well. So that was kind of like the most simplest reason why I joined the Army, and it was great.
So I know you mentioned too, like it was something you're always thinking about. Was that, where did you kind of get that passion from? Because I know you also have your cousin that's also in the military. Is that kind of where you initially had this thought?
So I always had an affinity for the military because the History Channel, and I like military history. As a kid, I grew up just like an Army man, and I just always was around it. I do have my cousin who's in the armed forces. She is a captain at this moment. She's been in the military for the U.S. Army for about 22 years now.
Wow.
She started as an enlisted, which means an enlisted is somebody that joins the military without a college education. You're not an officer. Her rise from enlisted to officer is definitely unique. It's not that everybody does that. And she loves it. She loves the Army. And she was the one that I talked to say, is this the right thing for me? And she sold me anyways. It was great. It was, she did help me out. We actually wound up getting based at the same location right after I finished my advanced individual training.
That's awesome.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
That was really cool. Can you, I don't know what you're going to ask next, Kemi, sorry.
No, go for it.
I saw your question, but can you talk to us a little bit or explain like the process of enlisting?
When you want to join the military, there's always an office around. Generally all four branches are there, the Marines, Army, and Air Force, and Navy. They'll have like their own offices. All you have to do is just walk in, say you want to join the service, and there's a certain requirements you have to fulfill. You have to be, a certain height, weight, qualify for before you can actually enlist. But the process is not that difficult, especially for the Army. I think I hear a lot of times people are afraid of joining because they're going to get assigned something that's not part of, they don't want to do that job. Well, the great thing about the Army is that as long as you take your ASVAB test and you place, a certain percentage, which is a test that kind of just like an IQ test where You get ranked on a scale, and if you score higher, the more jobs you can do. But you will do the job that you are assigned, that you want to do. It's not like you're, unlike the Marines, where Marines, you're a rifleman first. In the Army, you're your job first. So yeah, you learn how to shoot, you learn how to do all this stuff. But in the Army, if I wanted to become a computer engineer in the Army, and I chose that job, that's my job. It's going to be it. I'm going to get fast tracked to that job, and I'm going to get all my education and training for that job, and I'm going to be assigned that job when I get out of advanced individual training. Not too difficult. I guess let me go rewind here. So the steps you have to do is you have to sign up, fill out your standard information, name, and you'll have your recruiter usher you through the process. So you sign up, you have to take a small physical exam where it's basically 15 push-ups or 12 sit-ups just to see if you can do the bare minimum. Then you have to wait several months up to a year. You have to wait several months up to a year for me, it was 5 months before you go to a place called MEPS, where as Kemi put it the other day, this is where it's very hard to turn back once you get into MEPS.
Yeah, so I was kind of curious. So because once you join the military, that's it. But I'm just wondering how far in that sign-up process till it's like, I'm like, I don't know if it's the right fit. And like, oh, sorry.
So you can turn around at any point in MEPS. So if you feel uncomfortable, because this is where you swear your oath. You swear in at MEPS. Once you pass the exams where they make you do like a duck waddle, they'll make sure that your backs are straight. They'll check your vitals, make sure there's no heart. They do a full battery of tests on you. It's about half a day of in your underwear. And they're all just they're taking care of you.
This is why I do what I do.
And then once you pass that, you have to swear your oath to the United States, and that's where it becomes difficult to leave. Not saying you can't leave, but process you have to go through, because the Army is a bureaucracy. It's paperwork upon paperwork upon paperwork. So that's your point of no return, technically.
So it sounds like you go to the office, you complete paperwork, you work with a recruiter, and then you get the ASVAB, which is the Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test. And then you also do a medical exam, and then you go to MEPS.
So you do the ASVAB test before MEPS. So at the recruiting office, they'll take care of you. They'll make sure that, okay, like Warren can do his bare minimum requirements of physical fitness. Something special for me is that I'm a pretty big guy. So I've always been on the heavier side when it comes to the scale. And I had to get a thing called weighed and taped, where they tape your neck and they tape your waist. And they just got to make sure that the ratios are proportionate for your body fat. And because everybody's different. So I was about 5 pounds overweight, and so I had to get the tape, and I was fine. I've always been like that. So that's just something special to think about too. Just because they say it's a weight requirement, as long as you can get your neck taped and your waist taped, and it's in the right parameters, it's fine. Then you can sign right up. But yes, the recruiter takes care of you. They are your chaperones until you get to MEPS. So they're the ones that will administer the ASVAB test, which is about an hour. It takes about an hour to finish, hour and a half. And you, like I said earlier, you are ranked. I wish I knew. I think it's like from 0 to 100, I believe. And if you score a 90, generally that means that you can work 90% of the jobs in the Army. Or whenever, in each branch has an ASVAB test. It's standard out between all 5 branches. So it's not like the Air Force has something different and the Army doesn't. No, it's the same test. But yeah, it's definitely nerve-wracking because you want to get a good job in the Army.
Now, where can you see this list? So you take the test and then they show you a list of these jobs. So do they give you like a catalog and it shows you this is the job you do and this is what it entails?
Yes. So I vividly remember being in front of this really little crappy computer that they gave me, and they said that you can get the jobs from here, and you can see every single job in the Army if you go to their website, in the recruitments tab, you can see all the jobs. They're obviously going to show you the flashier ones. The job that I chose was Air Defense Artillery Battery Command Post Operator, Patriot Missile Battery Command Post Operator.
Break it down. What does that mean?
They said it like,
yeah.
Okay.
So essentially, I chose a job where I sat in front of a computer that it was a radar picture. And my job was to monitor air traffic so that Patriot missiles are missiles that shoot down anything that flies. Our motto was, it flies, it dies. That was our motto. It was actually a turkey with a rocket launcher, which was so corny, but but it was one of our mottos. I literally just sat in front of a computer and I looked at air pictures and learned how to read a radar. So when you see a plane flying in the air, that's a radar picture. Sorry, when you see a plane in the air, when a radar signal bounces off a plane, it sends a signal, and I can interpret certain things with the assistance of computers. And I helped monitor air traffic while I was in, which is very interesting because it's the Army, and you're like, why am I monitoring air traffic in the Army? There's plenty of crazy jobs like that where it's like, well, shouldn't you be in Air Force? So it's definitely a niche job.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I did.
Okay, so speaking of mottos, our motto around here, we just made it up last week. Well, we say it a lot, but it's do your research. So, yeah. But you talking, Warren, about how you they sat you down in front of the computer. So this was after MEPS, right? You said they sat you down in front of the computer. So
MEPS, everything's taken care of. I literally I knew my job that I was going to do in the Army. Gotcha. I just needed to pass that physical health requirement, which the recruiters can't. They can't. They're not qualified for that.
Okay.
So once you go to MEPS, that's when I finished the health battery. I signed my oath, and then I'm gone for 3 months. I'll be gone for 3 months to basic training. Okay. So once you get to MEPS, you won't see your family members or anybody for 3 months, essentially.
Got you. Okay. So before we get to that, I'm curious about basic training. I think we're going to talk about that for sure. But are you able to do your research? I think you did say you can, but so you're able to see what jobs you could possibly do before you choose your job. So you recommend somebody if you want to go to any of the 5 branches, would you recommend somebody sit down and maybe get some jobs before?
Yeah, you definitely want. See, I was a little different because I just did 1 semester of college and then I just really wanted to just join after. So I wanted to make sure that I just wanted to go. So I would always recommend before you go into the recruiting office, just know what jobs are out there for and for whatever branch you're serving. Just know that, Air Force, Navy, and Army, you are your job first, while the Marines, you're a rifleman first, which means that you could be an infantry soldier. So I always recommend to just understand what you're getting into. If you're into computers like I am, then, just look for jobs that are around the computers. If you really want to work in if you're into the woods and stuff, there's plenty of different MOSs, which your job in the Army is called as an MOS. There's plenty of different jobs that you can do that's tracking and survivalists. There's a lot. There's about 100 and I don't know. When I joined, it was about 180 or something ridiculous like that. It could be more now. That was about, I'm going to date myself, about 10 years ago.
Dating yourself. Okay.
Yeah. You're 80.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Well, I will say, along with what with Warren's advice, definitely, that's a lot of jobs. Like you said at the time, it was 180 something, could be a lot more. So for anyone listening that's possibly interested, definitely do your research, because that sounds overwhelming to me to have to go take a test and sit down and be like, I have to choose a job. So if you at least have some idea of what you enjoy, what your interests are, I think that would be really great, as Warren mentioned, to definitely do some insight into what, your options could be in any of the job opportunities.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But
so now let's get to the good parts. This is because this is what people kind of always think of when they think of the military. They think of the boot camp. So it sounds like after MEPS, that's where you go when you do the whole boot camp.
Yeah. Once you finish MEPS and you swear an oath of allegiance to the United States, things get a lot realer. This is no longer like a fairy tale, or you're actually doing this and you actually have to do it. So they'll put you in a hotel room after MEPS, then you fly to your basic training, which is basic training is where they break you down and build you back up. So I got my basic training was in Fort Jackson, Action Jackson, and some people call it Relaxing Jackson. I feel like I got Action Jackson. Basic training was definitely one of the harder things I've done in my life. I knew it was going to be rough, but I'd never forget getting out of the bus or being bussed in and then having regrets. Like, I think I'm not capable of doing this. And then the drill sergeants yell at you, and I got off the bus, had a bag over my head. I was dropping it, bag over my head. And this picture, a 19-year-old Warren sweating in North Carolina heat, with my, New England attitude. I had a rough couple days, but I will say that basic training was one of the best times of my life because it built me up from a civilian to a soldier. And I learned how to handle adversity. I learned how to handle different people and different, what's the word for it? Different walks of life all across the United States. And it really opened my eyes up to what I was capable of doing and thinking that, I can climb this ladder and jump off this and shoot rifles. I can do all this now. And in 8 weeks, about 8.5 weeks, I lost 5 pounds. Funny thing, I lost 5 pounds. But I gained so much muscle that my parents didn't really recognize me when they saw me. I looked like a completely different person. And it was great. I could run forever. But yeah, basic training is definitely special. The drill sergeants are not your friends, but they're your friends.
I'm not your friend, but I'm your friend.
Yeah, they're there to make you better. So getting yelled at and like, why are they picking on me? It's because they know that they can weed something out of you. Like I was picked on quite a lot because I talked a lot. So I had a drill sergeant named Drill Sergeant Bradley, and I used to get berated all the time. And I didn't learn until after when I graduated that drill sergeant was from Connecticut. And he was the only drill sergeant from the New England area, and I was the only recruit from the New England area. So he had it out for me, but he knew that I wanted to lead, and he put me in positions where I had to lead, and I didn't want to do it initially, but it really just came through, and I had a lot of fun, and
it pushed you to be better.
Yeah, it really pushed me to be better. It was really quick. 8 weeks go by quick too. Because it's filled with everything from waking up at 4:00 every day to doing physical PT, and then you do train you on whatever that needs to be done. And there's always something. It's never a dull moment. On Sundays are the only days where they kind of leave you alone, but they don't leave you alone because you got to be cleaning. You got to clean the barracks. You can't be idle. They don't like you idle. They don't like you sitting. And only time you can really do that is about 45 minutes to an hour before lights out, which is around 8. That's it. And that's where you can kind of talk to people and kind of write letters to home. But essentially, they really want you on the go all the time. And that's what builds camaraderie, because we don't really got to think about, issues. You guys are just there. It's something hard to explain, which it's just great. It's just great.
So I have a question. So in the boot, I know you were doing like PT school. Now, were you also learning a little bit about your job at this point, or was it after you got out of boot camp?
So basic training, we don't learn anything about our jobs. Basic soldiers. So we know how to fire a rifle. We know how to do infantry maneuvers. We'll learn just the basics of being a soldier. Not as much as an infantry soldier. If you choose infantry, then you get more advanced training. But you learn the basics of soldiering and discipline, and those are the things that they care about. They don't care about your job. They don't care about your job at all.
So what's infantry, just for those who don't know? Who's listening?
So the infantry are the people that you see in movies. Those are the guys that are firing and shooting and in the front lines. So that's what infantry is. Their job is to be the weapon of the army or military. Basically. They're the ones that are interacting and fighting on the ground, boots on the ground. When they say boots on the ground, infantry, that's them.
Gotcha. And then is it after the boot camp where there's like a ceremony that your family comes down to see, or is that after you learn your job skill?
Basic training, yeah, there's a big ceremony. It's when I finished my job in AIT, there was no ceremony, but in basic training, big ceremony. It's really big. You like walked out. There are other companies. So there's a thing called the tiers of the military. There's squads, then there's platoons, companies, and then battalions. So when you graduate,
battalion
training, yeah, battalion.
I only know that from Hamilton, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
when you graduate from basic training, you get to see because it's not just your company, which that's what you interact with your company. It's not just your company. You're seeing everybody else graduate too. So you're going to see this whole entire battalion of other soldiers that are just like you, that were, a stone's throw away, that you barely saw, and they're the one, because there's a rivalry. There's a rivalry between companies. Our company's better than your company. That was always the thing, and it was great. I love. I'm not sitting there smiling. I miss it. But yeah, you have a big ceremony. Your family gets flown down, and you are presented, with your certificate that you passed basic. You graduate, you pass basic training in Fort Jackson, and some people get promoted. I joined as an E1, which I had no rank on my chest. So it was just a little fuzzy patch. Other people join at various other times. If you have a college education, for instance, if you got a 4-year degree and you join the Army as an enlisted, you automatically start as an E4. So some people got presented that to them. I didn't rank up or anything. I was hey, you passed, you did it. Now, your next stage of your military career is learning your job that you qualify for at the ASVAB, after the ASVAB test.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I never even knew anything about like the ranking as well about that either.
Yeah, it's E1 to E9 and O1 to O9. So E is enlisted, O is an officer. So enlisted, you have your private first class, your specialist, corporal, sergeant, staff sergeant, first sergeant, master sergeant, the same. Then you have your O1, you have your lieutenant, you have your second lieutenant, first lieutenant, captain. Then you have your major. Then from major, you have major, lieutenant major, then lieutenant colonel, then colonel, and then you have from colonel you can become a general. So I know all the officers one, but the enlisted one the last one escaped my mind. But those are the ranks of the military. Army, I said the Army ones. The Air Force is different. They'll name something else weird, and Navy name something else. It's still E1 to E9 and O1 to O9. So it still follows the same, but it just sounds different, or the name is different.
All right. So what happened after boot camp?
It's called Advanced Individual Training, AIT. This is where you learn your job. And I was selected to go to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. This is where you're going to spend more time, depending on what job you choose. I stayed at Fort Sill for about 5 to 6 months because it took me that long to learn my job. My job took that long to learn. Other jobs in the Army can be shorter or can be longer. Certain jobs can take up to 2 months to learn, upwards to a year, depending on what you choose. So I was stationed at Fort Sill. My advanced individual training was at Fort Sill, and things were a little bit more normal. It's not like I have a drill sergeant yelling at you. I actually had an instructor, somebody that was just basically a teacher that's in the Army. That's exactly what they were. They weren't there to discipline you. They weren't there to make you do push-ups. They were just there to teach you your job. Now, I will preface this that AIT is not garrison, which is after you learn your job. It's just different. You have to have a battle buddy everywhere you go. You can't walk around by yourself. Yes, you are technically you're kind of more free to do what you want. You still have a structured day to day where you wake up, you go to class, you go physical training, you eat, you do all that. You all do things in formation. You're not walking around saying, hey, I want to go to dinner. No, you're walking in formation with a bunch of other people that go to dinner or go to PT or everything else. But on the weekends, things are relaxed. I'm not required to go to PT. It's just, I can do whatever I want on the weekends. But once again, you can't be alone. You have to have a person called a battle buddy. So if I wanted to go to the mall on a Saturday, I would have to sign out of the barracks, and I would have to have somebody with me at all times. If I'm caught without anybody with me, you can get in serious trouble. The Army is definitely, the military in itself is different from civilian life. We, as civilians, you have the judicial system, and you can get in trouble if you do X. In the Army, there's a thing called UCMJ, which is the Universal Code of Military Justice, which is stricter than civilian laws. So if I get in trouble in the civilian world, I can get in trouble again in the Army. So it's like punished twice. And the Army is no joke. Getting a UCMJ is no joke. You don't want to get any knocks on your record, because that follows you. And it puts a label on you too. So you need to make sure to be on your P's and Q's, especially at AIT, where a lot of people mess up and think that it is college, which is not. I was going to
say, yeah.
Yeah, which is not. It's not college. It's not college in the sense we're all the same age as normal college students, but you need to take this seriously, because once again, you can get kicked out of the military and never come back. Or you can get even worse. You can get kicked out of the military, and then on top of that, get in trouble in civilian life as well. So it's no joke. So AIT is definitely it was pretty stressful because of those limits, and you're not necessarily free to do what you want. But you do learn a lot though. It's the crash course on your job that you're going to be doing. So it's definitely informative.
So you said it took you 6 months, and then I think through a prior conversation, you said you have a roommate, but you guys are based on different schedules.
I was in night class, and my roommate was in day class. So there was a demand for my job in the Army, because we were so short-staffed that they did a bunch of recruitment. So we had a huge influx of soldiers. So what they did is they cycled classes to make sure that there was training going on 24 hours a day. And I got selected to do night class. So I would wake up around 5:30 and
a.m. p.m.
5:30 p.m. Sorry, 5:30 p.m. Then go to dinner, breakfast. I would be eating dinner technically at like 6:15, 6:30, and then from 6:30 to like 2 o'clock in the morning, I would be about 2 o'clock in the morning. I would be training, doing my job, learning how to work the Patriot missile system, and then I would do PT. I would go by barracks, change my clothes into PT, and then do an hour of physical exercise. Then get dressed again, then go out to eat. Not go out to eat, but go in formation to the mess hall, and then eat. Then I have about an hour of personal time, and then I go to bed and do it again. I did that Monday through Friday. So on the weekends, my schedule was pretty messed up, where I really wasn't functionable during the day. But yeah, that's what made it tough. It made it tough. We had a huge rivalry between the day class and night class people. Just like a rival football team, we were critiqued on our as a unit on our grades. So night class had a certain average, and day class had a certain average, and we were like, day class always did better than the night classes, and it's like, because
it's like your sleep schedule. Like
exactly.
It's my sleep schedule. Also, if you need to get vaccinations and shots, that all happens during the day. So we had to wake up at 1 p.m. and get our shots and then try to go back to bed the same day. I was like, oh, but then again, it's sometimes things are not fair, but that's kind of life. And it's just how you adapt to it. Because you can easily say, well, I'm not doing it. Well, guess what? You can get in trouble and you're not going to actually own up to, because it's so small. It's such a small fraction of your experience. As I always said, when I served 3 years in the Army, I always looked at it as it's only 3 years of hopefully, God willing, 90 years of my life for something that I can take with me for the rest of my life. So just look at it that if you join and you realize that I really like what's going on right now, it's just a small part of your life in the grand scheme of things. And just, you would feel so much better completing it than walking away. You really would. But my experience at AIT was unique. Not everybody has a night class, but it was great. It was great. And I will say that I had a great friend. His name was Springfield. His last name was Springfield.
Shout out to Springfield.
When you're in the military, you lose your first name, basically. So his name was Jamal Springfield, but I had a chest plate on mine. It always says Weston on it. So I was Weston. That's who I was. So it was definitely I met a guy named Springfield. He was always with me through AIT, and we wound up actually getting stationed together in the Army, and we actually got deployed together as well. So we went through our whole entire military experience from AIT to when we left the Army together. So it was great.
So can you clarify that for me? So after you did AIT, then you said stationed, then you got deployed. So can you kind of explain what that is?
So once you finish your job or AIT training, you get stationed at a base. Now, depending on what your job is, you may not necessarily be doing your job at that base. For instance, like I worked with the Patriot missile system monitoring air traffic. You did not do that at Fort Hood, because
the station where you were at.
Yeah, where I was stationed, I was at Fort Hood. You don't do that. But what I did was I helped maintain vehicles. I took care of whatever needed to be done while refreshing some of the stuff, while still learning more. But yeah, once you get into garrison, it is what your life's going to be in the military, where you have formations in the morning. So formation in the morning, so you have to be there at 4:30 in the morning, getting ready to do PT. Then you do PT and you go back, get changed, and you go eat. The great thing is that you don't necessarily. The great thing is you have more freedom. You can walk around the base by yourself. It's more of like a 9-to-5 job than it is a, structured life where I can't do anything. Once 5 o'clock rolls around, you're free to do what you want. I can do whatever I want from 5 to whenever. It doesn't really matter what time, as long as I show up at that formation the next day, ready to work. So it is a lot more freeing on garrison. Just once again, still can get in trouble. You got to make sure that you follow through. But the bases are all nice. They have PXs, which is like shopping malls. They have McDonald's, Popeyes there on base. It's very very welcoming because it has all the amenities that you need. You don't really even need a car, honestly. They take care of. There's always a busing system and schedule. So it's really nice that in garrison it's nice as long as once again don't get in trouble, which is very easy to do in life. It's very easy. It's easier to do it in the Army as well, or in the military. But
that's interesting. Yeah. I never really understood that concept of a base. I didn't know. It kind of sounds like its own campus of its own. Really.
Yeah, picture a base as one massive college campus. Honestly, that's exactly what it is, with various other different
small town kind of sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. With a military town right outside of it, which is like a normal town. So yeah, it's garrison life is not, or being garrison / stationed is just not much different from our day-to-day life, except that you wake up at 4. You wake up at 4. You do PT for an hour, which I wish I was still doing PT for get myself to get there and doing that. But and just reporting to formation. It's just all being scheduled. You just need to be available. You just need to understand, hey, I need to be here. That's 80% of life / 80% of the Army. Just be where you need to be at the right time. Just that simple. And then once you do that, everything else is, so when you're in garrison, there is a chance you can get deployed, which is a big commitment. But that's one thing that happens when you sign for the Army. I was active duty, which is, I should have probably said this earlier. The different types is active duty, which I did, where the military essentially owns you. They could kind of you can still do your job, but they can kind of send you where they want to. You don't leave the base. You live on the base. The Army, the military owns you. Then there's reserves, and then there's National Guard, where after you complete your AIT, you go back home back home, and then you have to report. Once a month to wherever they need you to go, and you're essentially a civilian, and you're working in the military and in the Army, in whatever position you choose. And it's nice because it's a great blend, but your contract's no longer. So my contract was only 3 years, while someone in reserve would be 6. So you would have to give up 6 years, guaranteed to have 6 years, no matter what. Like, you're locked in for 6 years. Well, in the Army, I was only locked in for 3, because I was like, okay, I can do 3 years. 6, a little different, and yes, there's always a chance you can get deployed, even if you're in reserves. But in the active duty, your chances of being deployed are a lot higher. So when I got stationed at Fort Hood, my unit was already deployed. So I got myself ready to go as soon as I got to the station. I had to get all my shots. I had to get my gear and fly over to where my unit was at in Kuwait. And they were there for a year. I only went there for about 8 months because I was, once again, my unit already shipped out. So it was definitely, being deployed is definitely different, way different than being in any garrison life. Everything is structured when you're deployed. Just due to safety, you're in a dangerous environment. I wouldn't say Kuwait is Afghanistan or Iraq. By no means it is not. But once again, you are there for a reason. So you have to be careful. And they are very particular on your day-to-day. So it's more structured. You do have to report to formation. There's a lot more commitment. I worked 24-hour shifts. So I would work for 24 hours on, 24 hours off, and then 8 hours the next day, and then recycle that. And I did that for 8 months.
Me and Kiki couldn't handle doing all-nighters at college. So we would be terrible.
Exactly. Yeah, that's amazing. This is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely when you just understand, if you join the military, there's a chance you can get deployed. I understand right now we're not in we're on the war on terrorism right now. It is not active in the Middle East, but it does not mean that you won't get sent over to Korea to work with DMZ, or especially Iran is one of the big ones too. So you may still get sent to Kuwait to do what I did, was monitor air traffic on the Iranian border, which was, it sounds cool, wicked boring. It's just, people always ask me, well, what did you do while you're deployed? And I was like, we were just a bunch of nerds in the desert staring at computer screens. That's exactly what we did. So it was not necessarily the most glorious thing. And you do have to understand that you're there for a reason, and it's only temporary. Yeah. So that's what got me through it. And, helped. And it was very stressful, but it was also, once again, I was able to handle it and commit myself to go through it. It was, I wouldn't want to say I want to go back, but, and that's the reason why I only did 3 years too. It's not for everybody. 3 years, I think, is good enough, but some people, want to re-enlist and serve another 3 more years and only serve 6, and they say that's fine. Some people, like my cousin, who absolutely love it, would, enlist and then become an officer. It's very interesting doing the green to gold, where as long as you're a sergeant or higher, you can be you can take a bunch of courses and do this basic officers training, and then you can get transferred to be a commissioned officer, like a lieutenant. So some people are like that. I wasn't necessarily like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to serve my 3 years, get my college paid for, and that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. So can you kind of like list a little bit of some of the military benefits that you gained after you got out of the military? Or even when you were in the military, what were some of the benefits?
Well, the benefits in the Army are that you have a place to sleep. You have a paycheck, guaranteed paycheck, which is not as big as you think. The paychecks in the Army are small, but I'm not paying for healthcare. You don't pay for room and board, and your food. You don't have to pay for food technically, because they feed you 3 square meals a day. It's just your choice to go to Popeyes or KFC or somewhere else. That's your choice. But the Army always will provide you health, food, and shelter. 3 basic things that we really need. And so you get the chance to save your paychecks. Great. If you're sick, no problem. They'll take care of you. I got my wisdom teeth taken out before I deployed. I didn't even know I needed my wisdom teeth taken out. They were like, well, you probably get it taken out just in case. And it's like, all right, take it out. It's free. I don't care. Do it.
Wow. Get all the work done.
Get all the work done. It's so they take care of you, and that's the benefits while in active duty. In the base. When you're out and you serve your 3 years, there's some phenomenal benefits, especially for college, where they'll pay for your college. So there's a thing, it's called a post 9/11 GI Bill, which is really big. This was what sold me to join is that they'll pay for your college, and on top of that, they'll pay you a thing called basic housing allowance, which is essentially a paycheck to go to school. And it's not a small amount of money. It is a quite sizable amount of money to go to college. So it made perfect sense to just, hey, I can sacrifice these 3 years and have all my college paid for and get paid to go to college and not have to work a job. And that's on top of that, if you work a job while getting BAH, while going to college, guess what? That's even more money that you can save and pocket. So that's like one of the small things for college. They also have, you get the home loan, which is a 0 down payment home loan, which is not similar to the certain states have certain ones where you put very little down. The VA, you don't have to pay any money down on a home, which is one of the biggest hurdles of buying a home, is putting down, 10% or 20% of a $400,000 house. That's
a lot of money.
$40,000-$60,000. That's not everybody has that kind of money to put down. So the VA bill helps out a lot with that as well, which is a really big selling point as well. Now, if you serve a certain amount of time in the Army, you can get free healthcare as well. I don't have free healthcare. I only served 3 years. It wasn't something I was going to get. But if you serve several more years, you can get that. If by chance you get hurt while you're in, for instance, if you injure your knee and your knee was just always never the same ever again, the Army will pay you a stipend for the rest of your life for that knee injury. It will, for instance, if my knee injury, I have to walk with a cane, they'll pay you $800 a month for the rest of your life because of that injury. It's kind of like they just want to make sure they're taking care of those veterans after their service. So I didn't have any injuries when I came out. I thank God for that. But I know some people had some issues that they had that were to take it from the Army, and then they're getting paid for it and compensated for those injuries. It's very unfortunate to have a lot of veterans that don't have. They're not in the greatest spot right outside the Army or the military, but just don't let that be a deterrent to understand that they're trying to do better.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. They're trying to take care of soldiers after, and it's also veterans to give back as well. too. There's a lot of veteran programs we can go and help out and other people. When I got out, I was out for about a year before I really committed to going to college. And I know in my hometown, there was a VA clinic and counselor there, and they really helped me out as well. So there's resources for veterans out there, and it's great. It's great. It's a great community. I get emails three times a week about the VA. I don't read them all, but it is there's something always happening. And there's always programs, and there's always something that you can be part of. And yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that part. I mean, I was going to ask a question about, because like we do see a lot of veterans or people that have served, and like they're not in the best spot, like you said. So thank you for saying it, because I was like, how do I ask this question? But you said it really well. Yeah. But it should, like you said, it shouldn't be a deterrent. Like I can't even imagine what you all have done. So to go like to be deployed, or even just to have to go through basic training, but to like be deployed and see the things that you've seen. Like imagine coming back, if you already had maybe a mental health issue or something coming back. I mean, it could either be heightened or something was triggered, being deployed. So, I mean, there's so many reasons people end up in the spots they're in. So yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Yeah. I was like, how do I ask this question? Because I really was curious, but yeah, it shouldn't deter anybody.
I do want to mention, and you just reminded me, when I was it was about 10 years ago, mental health was something that was growing. And I feel now it's very big, because some of the emails that I'm getting is about mental health checks. I think overall around the world, mental health is huge. Because the thing is, you do need someone to talk to. There's counselors in the Army. It is very stressful. It's not, I guess I liked being in the Army, but don't get me wrong. It wasn't a cakewalk. It is stressful, but it's manageable if you do it right. There's unfortunately some people do it wrong, and they cope with the wrong way of doing it, and they get kicked out, and they lose those precious benefits that you're there for, which is just the worst thing that could happen to you. Is just have outlets to understand, okay, I need someone to talk to, or I need a counselor to talk to, or speak up, especially for other people as well. That's the one thing about accountability in the Army. You aren't just there for yourself. You got your person next to you. Like, that's what you train. That's why you have a battle buddy in AIT and battle buddy in basic training. Because you need to care for that other individual too. And you got to care for your fellow soldier. So if you see somebody struggling, or like you clearly see something wrong, talk to them. If they don't want to answer, it's fine. Talk to their NCO, because guess what? They have to answer to him. It sounds like, oh, well, they'll figure it out. No. It's not that simple. It's because in the Army, we have all walks of life, just like you walk in your job. You need to have, some people need someone to speak up for them. And since the military is so structured in that way, where it's a tier system, if you mention something to the sergeant has to say something. So it's definitely important. Yeah, that's why I wanted to just reinforce that.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
No, that was good. I think also, I mean, as human beings, we go through big transitions, and that's a big transition. Like you're literally going from quote unquote being a civilian to becoming a soldier, and you're being broken down and built up, as you said, into a soldier. Then it just seems like it's so organized, boom, 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 boom. So I can only imagine what it's like to transition even back to society based on what, even if you saw or something's happened in deployment, but even just kind of figuring out where you want to place your footing back into society, being a civilian all over again, so that's a big transition. I think sometimes people obviously they don't really recognize it because they're not going through it, but it can definitely, after you're listening to your experience, see how that can be a big adjustment to people coming back afterwards, or why some people are like, this is great for me. I want to stick in and do this for the rest of my life. I like it,
Right. It's just when we have the freedoms now, I can do whatever I want. I can, not show up to work tomorrow. Like there's no, honestly, the repercussions that may get fired, but in the Army, the repercussions that you can get, sent to the barracks and arrested. So it's different. But this thing is, the wonderful thing I liked about it is because of that structure. And it's great to have, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. Like it's sectioned off at what you need to do. And that, but it's hard to cope with that when you leave from the Army and you're like, I don't know how to handle this. There's too much freedom. But which is a very strange thing to say, but it helped. It took me a while to get adjusted, but once I did, I took what I learned from the Army, the discipline, the ability to just grit and bear things in the civilian life, and applied it to my work ethic and college. So
yeah. So I guess kind of just to wrap it all up. So now you're not in the military. I was gonna say, are you in the military ward? No, you're not. No. You live with me.
Yeah.
So
Kevin's a drill sergeant. No,
but so after you got out of the military, so what did you do next after the military?
I took a year off and just figured myself out. I was 23 at the time, so I still fairly young. I didn't necessarily know what I wanted. I still didn't know what I wanted to do for college, but once I figured that out, I applied myself and got my associate's degree. And then I met you. And then, then I got my bachelor's degree. I worked while getting BAH as well. I tried to maximize my benefits as much as possible because my benefits only lasted for 3 years. So it lasted as long as I was in. So I needed to make sure I used it. Once I started applying for college, so once I got into college again, I then focused all my efforts into maximizing my benefits and then getting my degree as fast as possible so that I don't have to pay for it. Because it's not like they will pay for it ever. I had to get it done in a certain time frame. Now, I know with the GI Bill, they pay for, there's like a pool of class, like the amount of classes you take doesn't matter. If you take 5 classes, they'll pay you the max amount of benefits. If you take 2 classes, they won't pay you the most. So I had to maximize all the benefits I could. So I took
financial aid in a way, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. You guys are the
no, that's true. Well, no, you said like if you like get this much benefits, if you do a certain amount, if you do like your full amount, you get the full award. If you do like partial, you get like partial.
Yeah.
But I never knew that it was like your GI benefits were based on how much time you served. Is that how you're saying it works?
There's a formula they come up with. I forgot how they figured it out, but for me, it kind of played out to around 3 years is kind of the time I had to use it. So once I started college again, it started then, and I had to maximize every single opportunity.
Gotcha.
3 years of, I should say 3. If I took a year off, that didn't count. It was just 3 years of actual college work. It's not like I could take a year off and I would lose my benefits. No, I had to make sure I wanted to get it done as fast as possible. So
cool. Do you mind saying what your degrees are in?
Associate's degree in liberal arts science. Wow. Something like that. And then liberal, I forgot what it's called. Liberal. I just essentially got my general
gen ed,
right?
Gen ed. And then for my bachelor's degree, I got it in management of information systems. So it was a bachelor's of science, and I got that at Bay State College. I did all night classes to get that done. And I have several different certificates with my job. I work in the e-discovery field, which is forensics, and I have several different certificates with that as well. Not graduate certificates, but just certifications on certain tools and software.
That's so cool. I guess we're gonna wrap it up, but we've said a lot of stuff. This has been like really fascinating. And you kind of mentioned it too, Warren. You said the military is not for everybody. As with anything, it's not for everybody. So like if someone's listening, could you like share based on your experience, like who you think or who would you say the military is for or it's not for?
Well, I personally think that anybody can do it if you can apply yourself. If you know how to get rid of the ego of it's all about me and understand that in order to succeed, you have to work with people around you and different personalities and grit and bear personalities you just don't like, just understand that, hey, we're working towards the goal. I think that's for anybody. I don't think it's for people that, I will say it's not for people that don't like getting yelled at or getting told what to do. Especially basic training in AIT. Not much dealing in AIT, but you're being told what to do. And you have to you have to kind of give up that autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're very independent, then it might not necessarily be for you, because you might be told something. You might be told because I said so.
Mm-hmm.
That's, you get what I mean? Not the greatest
mm-hmm.
leadership, but you're going to get some leaders that are like that, especially at your job. But it's going to happen in the Army. You're going to get a sergeant that's like, it's going to make you do something you really don't like. And you're like, why am I doing this? But I have to just say yes.
Mm-hmm.
I can't question it. As long as it doesn't put me in serious danger, but I still have to do it. You know, it's one of those things. You just have to deal with those kinds of things. And if you're not capable of, I don't want to say humility. I guess you could say humility, because, like I said, I sometimes think I know too much, and I don't want to. I know better than this person, but I'm a private, so I need to keep my mouth quiet. And that's the thing I had to learn. So, so that's a big one.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well,
thank you. This has been so fascinating. I guess we're wrapping it up.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, you go. Okay, I was gonna say thank you, Warren. Well, Warren's our first guest, like we said. So thank you, Warren. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
And make sure you keep all your discussion in this. Don't edit yourself out. It was fantastic, for real. Yeah, but I was also gonna say, thank you, anyone who's defended our country in the military. Veterans Day was past Thursday.
Yeah.
And actually, I think a lot of colleges do Veterans Day events. I got to hear from this really amazing woman. I think she was a sergeant. I don't remember which branch, but I was really inspired. I was inspired today, Warren. Thank you so much. Again, thank you to anyone for serving, who's served our country, currently serving or has served.
Thank you for
this is really cool.
And just learning one experience is wow, that was a lot. It's a lot. So, for sure. So
well, I always say,
go ahead.
When people say, I don't want to get in trouble, but when people say, thank you for serving, I say, thank you for paying your taxes. Because that's the only reason why the service exists.
Yeah. True.
Very true. I never thought about that. But no, if you see somebody, they've served, say that. I think it's just the least you can do is say thank you for your service. Because even I was just thinking, Warren was you only did 3 years. I feel like that's 3 more years than somebody else did, than me and Kemi did.
Right.
Combined,
me and Kiki did 0.
Yeah, 0. But no, I think you said humility, and I saw I heard humility all throughout it. And I feel like anybody else I've met that has served or is serving, they're just super humble. So I feel that was really great, Warren. Thank you. I was also going to say thank you to our listeners, all of you. But we have listeners in Germany and Puerto Rico.
Yeah. We're trying to find out who you guys are.
We are amazed. Please.
Thank you. Because especially Puerto Rico and Germany, you guys are consistent. So
yes.
Send us an email. We want to know who you are, but thank you.
But everybody, though, I feel like a lot of our friends listen to, but if you have never met Kemi and I before, if you're somewhere else, even our friends, message us, or how to get to our email. But we just want to say thank you to everybody, because we are just always blown away. Germany, Puerto Rico, Maryland, we know we got a lot of friends on Virginia, the East Coast. Yeah. Virginia, North Carolina, New England. I think there was Florida. So shout out to everybody. Y'all are
thank
the
you,
best.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much. But yeah, thank you so much, Warren. This was really fun.
I'm glad to be part of this.
Thank you. Maybe we'll have you again in the future.
We sure will. But yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks everyone, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you everyone for tuning in and listening to the latest episode of Your Advisors Will See You Now. Please make sure to follow us on all of our social media pages and check out our website. Take a look at the show notes below.
And please make sure to subscribe and share this podcast. Also show us some love and please leave a 5-star review. Catch you next time.
See ya.